Time to Shine Today podcast Varsity Squad. This is Scott Ferguson, and I got a buddy, a good friend of mine, Dennis Harhalakis, from across the pond over in England. He's a rock star certified money coach and the founder of Cambridge Money Coaching. Money coaching deals with the subconscious patterns, beliefs, and behaviors around money that we all have. And this is something that I struggled with in the past, and I have questions for my boy Dennis here. That I know that you probably will too out there, squad. And prior to becoming a money coach, Dennis spent 30 years in banking and wealth management. He works with individuals, couples, and financial professionals such as IFAs and planners. And Dennis, thank you so much for coming on. Please introduce yourself to the Time to Shine Today podcast Varsity Squad. But first, what's your favorite color and why?
It's blue, and I don't know why. But
Okay.
I'm wearing a blue top. It used to be purple, but now it's blue.
Purple's that regal.
It's a very good color. And the Chinese believe that blue is the symbol of luck and prosperity.
Really? I never knew that. I'm looking at the Atlantic Ocean and it's blue, but but no, I never knew that it was symbol of luck. But my jam is purple because that mix of red and blue is me. I love it, and it's regal. So
yeah, absolutely.
Let's get maybe to the roots of kind of where you were with the 30 years in banking and wealth management, and then how you came to found Cambridge Money Coaching, because that's a pretty royal name in a sense. We hear Cambridge here in the United States, and we hear, oh, Cambridge, that's like royalty or something like that. So I'm really interested in how you came up with that name, how you locked that name down, or if it was hard at all, and just really your roots, brother.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Well, I guess you've got the Cambridges. That's like the royal family of the Cambridges.
Right.
Cambridge. But I started with Cambridge Money Coaching because I live in Cambridge.
Oh,
and it just
okay.
seemed to me like a good, it has a good name. But that was a few years ago, more recently. So as you say, I started in banking. I started in 1986. So, I'm back in the days. I spent a lot of time in banking and wealth management. And kind of over the years, I noticed that a lot of the people I worked with, they just weren't great with their money. Some had credit card debt, some struggled with bills, some had no savings. I even worked with a guy in a bank who was head of lending and governance, and he had to declare bankruptcy. So, working in a bank doesn't make you any better with your own money. In fact, you could probably say it doesn't make people very good with anybody's money, whether it's the customer's money or whether it's their own money. But anyway, I spent a lot of time working in this space. And I thought I knew a bit about money, and I guess in some senses I did. But I was working abroad, and I moved back to the UK. This was in about 2014, and I didn't have a job, but I was building a house, so I got involved in this process of building a house. And building a house is all about lots of decisions, right? When you buy a house, you make one decision, you make one payment. When you build a house, right, you make lots of decisions, and each decision is not just about where to put the lights, or where to put the plugs, or where to put the appliances. It's also always like a spending decision.
Okay. And
so you make hundreds and hundreds of spending decisions. And I didn't have any job. I had some savings, and these were gradually being eaten up by the house. And because any kind of building project is always, you start with optimism and a budget, and then it always starts to slide. So I ended up in this space of, making lots of spending decisions and building, in me, mm-hmm. I was building up anxiety. So I had no job, dwindling savings, increasing costs. And I did what most people do when they have money anxiety. I freaked out about every tiny expense. I did not look at my finances. I tormented myself with worry, and I had like the smile breakdown.
Wow.
So, after 30 years in finance, it seems I knew quite a lot about money, but not very much about money in myself. So I was financially competent, but not financially secure, at least not in the emotional sense. And, when you're living in a state of anxiety, this has a massive knock-on effect on all the people around you. And making decisions from a place of fear is usually suboptimal. So that was the place I found myself in. And I was listening to a podcast because I'm trying to write stuff on financial literacy, which may seem ironic to you at the time, but I thought that would be, something I could do. And I heard someone who just trained to be a money coach, who's a financial planner. And she was talking about where our beliefs, where our ideas, where our money behavior comes from. And I suddenly realized, I had this moment when I realized I have been dragging around for the whole of my life my father's money anxiety, along with all the other stuff that is part of my subconscious inheritance.
And then worrying about the future too. So you're dragging
we all kind of worry about the future, because
Absolutely.
that's kind of what mammals do and what most things, but how we worry about the future, how much we worry about the future, because it varies. Some people worry about the future a lot, and others are like, nah, don't worry, it'll be fine. I'm sure something will turn up. So all of that,
right.
A lot of that is about what you learned about yourself and what you learned about money as a child growing up.
Oh my gosh,
so I spent my whole life dragging around my father's anxiety around money, and his anxieties around everything else at the same time. And that gave me this moment of realization what it was. And it also showed me how I could release myself from that. So I trained to be a money coach. I spent nearly 9 months training with the Money Coaching Institute of California.
Wow.
I was on Zoom 5 years ago, and I became a money coach. And so I help people deal with anxiety, other negative emotions, guilt, shame, regret. There's a whole bunch of stuff all wired in there.
Right.
And when you understand that, you can make better decisions, you reduce anxiety, and you communicate in healthy ways. Because as you know, money causes a huge amount of friction.
Yeah. Do you find that a lot of people, when it comes to money, they kind of have a foot in the past, a foot in the future, and they piss all over the present? Like they just get so worked up because of it's like a sandwich, if you will, because my dad worked on the line at General Motors. They build Chevy cars and stuff like that. And we are always anxiety about money. Always, oh, you can't get that. Going to restaurants, and I wanted grits with my, you don't need the grits. It was kind of that. And then you look forward and like, how the hell am I supposed to make it in this world when I went through what I went through? So am I hearing right kind of what you went through as well, that first of that anxiety?
Yeah. So the anxiety is not related to how much money you have. Obviously, if you don't have very much money, then you're far more likely to be concerned about how much the grits cost, or whether you get, a double soda or whatever you have with it. Right. But there are plenty of people who have money, and that doesn't stop their money anxiety. So
sure.
So one of the interesting things, if you look at the way the human brain is wired, once you have anxiety, once you have cortisol going around the system, it does this thing called cognitive narrowing. So basically your ability to think is massively impacted. Your ability to think straight, your ability to plan, your ability to make good decisions is reduced when you are anxious, when you're in an anxiety mode. The people I work with, we use this concept of HALT, which is I make really bad decisions when I'm hungry, angry, anxious, lonely, or tired. Right? Because then when I'm hungry and tired, I don't have enough energy to run the thinking brain. And when I'm anxious, angry, or lonely, I got cortisol going around the system.
Right.
Because it all stems from a really simple thing that we evolved with, which is if you're running with great haste from danger, how much energy do you need to put into it?
Just enough to get away.
100%, right? Yeah. And should this process be automatic or or conscious?
I think it should be conscious, but it's probably automatic because the way we're wired from our ancestors.
You're wired. If you are in great danger, you're wired to subconsciously get away. In fact, the brain answers the question, what do I do, before what is it? Right. What do I do is much more important than what is it, because is it a hose, is it a snake? Doesn't really matter. What do I do?
Sure.
So you have and then, like, when you're running with great haste from danger, like, do you need to worry about, whether there's a coconut over there, or whether, that guy's got a nice hairdo, or none of that stuff, right?
None of it.
So your brain does this thing called cognitive narrowing. It shuts down your visual field, your field of vision, and it shuts down your hearing, because when you're running with great haste from danger, all you need to do is get out of where you are. You don't need to worry about anything else. Now that's that's fight or flight. That's that is a hardwired response that kept humans alive for thousands of years, right? However, and that's great if you're running from something with more hair and teeth than you
Sure.
have, or more legs and teeth. That's really, really important. However, this same process, which is really powerful, really automatic, and really subconscious, goes on when you can't find your phone, or
Sure.
when you can't find your car keys, or when you've got a tweet, or you've got something that upsets you. This process of cortisol release, fear, and cognitive narrowing. And so when you live in a state of anxiety, you have this concept where right now is really, really important. The future isn't, right? The lion in front of me is really important,
Sure.
not next week's lion. And the lion in 40 years time, hey, I need to get past this lion first.
Right.
The lion in 40, that's not on there, right? That's that whole quote about that. That's a problem for future Homer. I'd hate to be that guy. You've seen that, right? Quote, that's future Homer. Now, we don't live in that environment. Most of us don't live in that environment anymore. I mean, obviously, if you're in the armed services and whatever, or you're in Ukraine, that sort of thing's really important to you right now. But it isn't for most of us.
Right.
So when you have this powerful response that gets triggered because you got an email from your boss, or your partner's giving you a dirty look, or one of your kids has been rude to you, it stops you thinking straight. It stops you thinking.
That cognitive narrowing goes right into that.
That's cognitive narrowing.
Yeah.
Right?
Got it.
So when you come back to finances, that anxiety state gives you cognitive narrowing. It makes you think about what can I do right now, as opposed to what makes sense in the long term. Is hassling Scott about like getting some fries or some grits really important right now?
Right.
Actually, probably not.
Right.
But because I'm anxious, I'm unable to see that picture. And so we come out of childhood with a whole bunch of messages about ourselves and about money and about whether we deserve stuff.
Okay.
And that goes with us through life.
And I'm 100% recovering victim of that mindset, because I went out and defied my father in a sense where I just went on like, I'm just going to print money. And I did, but I didn't listen to my advisors to keep it because I didn't have the identity to keep it. Right. So, and I had to coach myself. Now I do pretty damn well now, but I know that I have the right advisors in place that are going to help me. And speaking of advisors, so when you're working with somebody, maybe one-on-one, Dennis, is there any secret sauce that you have, if you don't mind sharing, that like during that discovery period that maybe helped them find their blind spot?
I think the most important thing is to start with understanding why managing your finances is really hard, why it's difficult, because it is, right? And we're not wired for it. Our brain isn't wired for it. There's a whole bunch of stuff that I'd love to share with you, but right now we don't have the time to go into it because it's like a little 20-minute mini speech.
Yeah, we need to brief it up on this stuff. Absolutely. But I appreciate you saying
the interesting thing about this is that once you realize how hard it is, you realize that, and you internalize failure. So when you grow up, people go, why can't you do this? What's the matter with you? Why did you do this? What's the matter with you? Why don't you understand that? What's the matter with you? So we internalize failure. So money is this thing. I use it every day. It makes me feel bad. I don't understand why I have debt. I don't understand why I have no savings. I don't understand why why I do what I do. Must be something wrong with me. So there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you at all. If you can't do something that's really hard, that no one ever showed you how to do, that's wired to your emotions and your self-worth, then there's nothing wrong with you. That just makes you normal. And so the most important thing here is to start with self-compassion and forgiveness. Because if you don't start with that and you try and change, and then, as you know, with any process of change, you're going to make a mistake. You're going to trip up.
Absolutely.
You're going to go, I knew I could never do this. I knew I wasn't, and my dad was bad with money, or my mom was bad with money. I knew I've always been bad with money. I'm just not good, So you're not good or bad with money. You're just acting out a set of patterns and self-beliefs. So start with self-compassion. Start with self-forgiveness. This is hard, but we can all learn how to do it, because what's blocking you are the stories you tell yourself.
Yes.
Money.
I freaking love that. That makes so much sense. Another thing, at least here in the States, it's like when kids go to school for education, right? Like I have a nonprofit that I work with. It's called Financial Education Services. So they invite us into high schools to teach kids how to balance a freaking checkbook and stuff like that.
Sure.
Thank God they're letting us do that and come in and have that identity that it's okay to make a little bit of money, but also when you're in that rut, to have self-compassion. I love that. And Dennis, so when you're maybe still in the discovery period, or maybe you're starting to work with somebody to help them level up finances, or working with people that help others level up finances, is there any good question that you wish they would ask you but never do?
Oh, that's a really interesting way of doing it. Normally people say, what questions do you ask others? Well, a great question would be, tell me your own money story.
Yes, my man, dude, that's exactly what I did with my FA. I was like, so, how are you? And that there's a follow-up question that's for you, brother. It's like, what is the hardest part of practicing what you preach?
Yeah, that's a really good question. That's a really good question. And you could also ask, what's the hardest part of coaching? And the hardest part of coaching is not talking.
Yeah, that's me. I'm so ready to help. My executive leaders that I coach and stuff like that, I've gotten really good at, God gave me one mouth and two ears for a reason, right? And listening with my neck, right? So like really getting into conversations, and I've gotten it down. But before I was like, oh, I want to help. So I feel you there, man.
Yeah,
I love it.
Well, let's put this into context here, because I think there's a really interesting point that we can tease out of this. So when you go to a financial advisor and they talk about the numbers, and they only ask you about the numbers, what does that say to you? What's the message you're getting?
There's no compassion from their end for you. And there's no one.
What about the human being in front of you?
Right.
All I'm interested in is your money.
You. Right. Thank you. Because that's my FA. We're not buddies. Like, we'll play a little golf here and there. We both rode jujitsu and stuff like that. But it's like, he was like, listen, man, there was something blocking you before. My job, I feel, is to help you, Fergie, get over that blockage, right. And let me do my job of that. But I love this, dude. I love it. I'm sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead.
No problem at all. Let's tease this out a little bit more. One more question. So when you're sitting in front of a financial advisor, and let's just say, right, you've never been to a financial advisor, or no one ever talked about money when you were growing up, and you say to your financial advisor, and let's say the financial advisor asks you about, what was money like growing up and stuff like that. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me how you got here and everything. And you say, oh, we never talked about money growing up, or I've never been to see a financial advisor. What do you think what do you think is potential underlying message in that? I never talked about money growing up, or I've never been to a financial advisor. What is that person potentially saying?
That there's no identity to money, and that they need possibly to be educated. I don't know. Yeah,
so you could be saying this is really exciting, or you could be saying this is really scary.
Scary, yeah. Okay.
This is really scary. So you've just told somebody that this is a really scary space for me, and they've said, oh, don't worry, we know a lot about money around here. You're in the right place. I'm going to look after you. Don't you worry about it. So I've said to you, Scott, I'm really scared. And you've said to me, don't worry, Dennis, I'm really brave.
No.
Am I going to feel any better?
No.
Not much, right?
No. And a good advisor is a coach, man. They just are. They don't think that they are, but they are. And like, I use the how, when, never why. I never use that question why when I'm coaching, because there's some judgmentalism in it. But where did these feelings of lack come from? It could go there. And I wish advisors, financial advisors, would ask that, because it's such. Money doesn't make the world go round, but it sure as hell makes it easier to live if you have it, bottom line. And there's a scarcity of it. Yeah. So, okay.
I mean, the people that are telling you money doesn't buy you happiness usually have money. They're not the ones who don't have money.
Right. You can pull right up to happiness and something, though.
I got a lot of money, and I can tell you it doesn't buy me happiness. Well, you know what? I'd just like to try it for a little bit. I'd like to try being really, really rich, and then okay, maybe if
Yeah,
you're
let's
right,
see what
you're right.
happens. Hey, have you seen the movie Back to the Future?
I have, yeah.
Okay, let's get in that DeLorean with Marty McFly. All right, let's go to the double deuce, the 22-year-old Dennis. What kind of knowledge nuggets, as we call him here at Time to Shine today, or what kind of wisdom would you drop on the 22-year-old Dennis to maybe help him level up, blast through, and maybe shorten the learning curve just a little bit? Not so much change too much, but what would you do to help him level up a little bit?
I would say to him that life is a learning journey. So it doesn't stop when you leave college. You need to move into a new phase of embracing life. Embrace lifelong learning.
Wow.
You've left the formal education process, but you don't know anything.
Wow.
And that's okay, right? That's not meant as a judgment. It sounds a bit judgmental,
No.
but it doesn't really. You've just got to the end of that phase.
Right.
Now embrace lifelong learning. And the most important thing you can learn about is yourself.
Love that, dude. That is fantastic. So how does Dennis want his dash remembered? That little line in between your incarnation date and your expiration date, your life date and your death date on your tombstone, which hopefully it's a long ways down the road, but how does Dennis want his dash remembered?
Yeah. I'd like people to look at me and go, he tried to be the best person he could.
Yeah.
And that sounds a bit trite, I guess, in some senses, but I think if you want to think about your legacy, what you're talking about is how do your kids remember you?
Love it. I love it.
And I think I'd like them to remember me as some person that was always trying to be the best person they could. It doesn't mean I'm successful at it. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm not, right? I'm a long way from that.
Subjective, right? But there's thing about you is I'm going to pat your back, dude, because what you're doing with financial advisors in wanting them to show compassion and educate their clients, that you're actually planting trees, brother, that you're not going to sit in the shade of. Because if you're what you're doing, hopefully they pay that forward to the people that they train, right? And I love this angle. And this was what I was hoping for after kind of vetting you out, and seeing where it went. I love it. So then what do you think people misunderstand the most about Dennis?
Understand the most about
you?
About me? Oh, wow. Well, these weren't the questions I prepared.
No, this is Time to Shine today, man. We rock. We get deep.
You misunderstand about me. God. I think they see me as someone that's maybe always trying to think too much about things and explain things. And I guess in some senses of the word, I have to kind of understand it in order to be it. That's kind of how I'm wired. And what I'm really trying hard right now is just to step back and ask questions like, that's really interesting. Tell me more about that.
I love that.
Why do you think that way?
Dig deeper.
There's a why, but what's driving your thinking? You're right, because the why thing is always, because it makes total sense to me at this moment. Now, maybe my brain's only thinking 1 nanosecond ahead as opposed to in 40 years time, because I'm triggered and I'm stressed and I'm tilted and whatever it is.
Right.
I believe that every individual makes the rational decision for them in that moment. Maybe really bad for them in the long term, maybe really bad for them in the next 5 minutes, but then it makes a huge amount of sense. So the why question is not about judgment. It's like, help me understand.
Yeah, right. If you ask yourself a why question, I'm good with that, because with my clients, we don't do affirmations. A lot of people are like, want to do affirmations. What I do with my clients, something I was taught by my coaches and mentors, is we ask crazy high level questions. Like, how is it that I'm 240 pounds and sculpted and I look great? Why is it that my bank account keeps growing? Because our brains are made to solve problems. And if you give yourself affirmations, there's a seed of doubt. If you ask yourself a question and you ask them as powerfully as you can. And I'll even add whys into the questions I ask myself. That's great. I love the compassion that you have. So what keeps you up at night?
I still have money anxiety. Right.
Okay. Thank you for the transparency, dude. That is awesome, Dennis.
It's a damn sight better than it used to be.
Right.
And what I don't do is I don't radiate it out to everybody as much as I used to. So I think that's, it's okay. I have self-compassion around that. I understand I'm on a journey with it, and I'm hoping to get better at it. And I guess if I have in 20 years time, I've got 20 years less to worry about in terms of my future. So it's about taking ownership of that process and going, how do I do this better? What is it that I can do for myself, in myself, to make this process better? How do I create more security for myself in the future? Part of that is like,
those are huge level up questions, high level questions, dude. That I'm sorry, you dude. It's the ocean.
No problem.
That is because if that's keeping you up at night, you're problem solving, right? You're actually going through and asking yourself questions instead of saying, shit, man, I'm here, right?
So have you ever seen that film, The Bridge? It's a spy swap. You remember that guy, the US pilot that got shut down over Russia in the 50s, and they swapped him for an American spy, right? It's got Tom Hanks in it.
Yeah,
right. So here's a really great clip. So the Russian guy has been captured and whatever else it is, and Tom Hanks is there to interview him and everything. And Tom Hanks says to this guy, "Aren't you worried?" And the guy says, "Would it help?"
It's true. Right. Absolutely.
Does it help?
Right.
So the process of being less anxious is partly about building security, but it's also partly about getting yourself to remember that anxiety is just is something that you can dial down in yourself.
Love it.
You can do some breathing exercises, you can do some mantras, but fundamentally you recognize it, you look at it and go, oh, hey, I know what you're trying to do, but it's all right. I got this.
I love it. It movement. I'm glad you brought in physiology into it as well. It's like I'm a huge believer in rebounding in a trampoline, right? Because it's funny. I go on stage and I open up all my speeches with me bouncing on a trampoline, and people, again, I'm 250 pounds. I'm a big dude, pretty well put together. People are like, "What is this guy doing?" But I'm able to I work out my anxiety through the physiology of going out in front of 30 or 500 people, but also like your heart beats and it purifies your blood, but nothing can clear the lymph system out without movement, right? So like lymph system stores all your leukemia and cancers and all that stuff in there. So when you're rebounding, it actually, because when you come off the trampoline, you are at zero gravity. You hit the trampoline, you're at 4 times the gravity, right? So it flushes out your system. But the best part about it is when I'm on stage is that people are going like this and affirming everything I say. They're like,
it's not like a tennis match where they're doing
that. So what is Dennis's definition of a life well lived?
I think this has to do, for me, with the concept of purpose. So we talk about happiness, we talk about well-being, we talk about meaning, we talk about purpose. All these things are, if you can find purpose in your life, you will find meaning, you will find happiness, you will find well-being.
Wow.
All these things come from purpose, right? I think the question around what is the meaning of life is a pointless question. The real question is, what is the purpose? Have you found purpose? So this is why people who get paid a lot of money but do jobs that have no purpose, or at least they feel like have no purpose. Don't make them happy, because the money won't make you happy.
Right.
It's purpose that makes you happy. And when you look at if you take a correlation between money and happiness, obviously it goes up, but beyond a certain point, more money won't make you more happy. What's really, and we don't need to get into happiness and well-being and that kind of stuff. But what's really interesting is that there is no correlation between money and purpose.
Right. Right.
Because purpose is an internal thing. It's what you find for yourself. So a life well lived, whoever you are, whoever I am, is when I feel I have purpose, and that's going to make me happy. That's going to make me radiate.
You're such a servant, man. I just believe you do what you love in the service of people that love what you do. And I know that I love what you do, and I know you love what you do. And that's fantastic, man. That is beautiful. And squad, we are going to take my good friend Dennis here through our leveling up lightning round just as soon as we get back from thanking our sponsors and affiliates. Hey, time to shine today, Podcast Varsity Squad. We are back with my awesome sauce friend Dennis. And Dennis, you and I literally could talk an hour on each one of these questions, okay?
Oh, yeah.
But you got 5 seconds to answer them with no explanations. And they all can be answered that way. You ready to rock?
Let's go.
Let's level up. All right. Dennis, what is the best leveling up advice you've ever received?
Best advice is that perfect is the enemy of progress. You learn by trying, get comfortable, put yourself out there.
Love it. Love it. Share one of your personal habits that contributes to your success.
I think that's a balance between checking your work, doing it to the best ability there is, not putting it in too early, but also not hanging on to it. Just get it out.
Love it. If you see me walking down the street, kind of hanging out, like, yeah, Fergie looks like he is in his doldrums, I need to give him something to read to level up. What book are you giving me?
That's a good question. The book, for that particular case, I would
quickly on these leveling up lightning round. Quickly.
Right. Oh shit, you got me there. Grandpa's Fortune Fables, How to Talk to Your Children About Money.
Love that. Love that. Your most commonly used emoji when you text?
Smiley face.
Love it. Nicknames growing up?
Didn't have any.
None. Chess, checkers, or Monopoly?
Monopoly.
Love it. What's your go-to flavor for ice cream?
Vanilla.
No, all right. So there's a sandwich named the Haralakis. What is on your sandwich?
Oh, yeah. It's got avocado. It's got a bit of Swiss cheese. It's got a little bit of mayo, not too much, so that the avocado doesn't fly out when you bite into it.
Love it. So if you got a time machine for the day, right? And you can spend one day 20 years in the future or one day 20 years in the past, where are you going?
Wow. Future.
Beautiful. What's your favorite charity and organization you'd like to give your time or money to?
Anything to do with kids.
Beautiful. Last question. You can elaborate a little bit on this one, but what's the best decade of music? 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s?
Okay, if I look at my record collection, it's 80s.
All right, very cool.
So yeah,
no, I'm an 80s guy too. I mean, I graduated in 1990, so I lived through the 80s, and Big Hair, Don't Care. They had the invasions in the United States from Britain and even Ireland with U2, and you had the big hair bands. I love it. Love it. So, Dennis, where can we find you, my friend?
You can find me at cambridgemoneycoaching.uk. www.cambridgemoneycoaching, or one word, .uk. Come and find me.
And that'll be in the show notes, squad. And let's talk a little bit about this monthly workshop that you
thank you
have for financial advisors.
So we touched on it a little bit earlier, which is how do you understand client behavior? How do you help people understand how their clients think and behave around money? Because it's not taught. It's not taught if you're a planner. It's not taught if you're an advisor. It's not taught if in any space at all. You need a money coach, because a money coach has insights around how people think and behave and feel around their money. And here's the interesting thing. How people think and feel and behave around their money drives their spending, their saving, their earning, and their investing. So if you're a financial advisor and you don't know anything about how they think and feel and behave around money, but you're trying to help them save, spend, invest, and earn, where are you?
All right.
So that's what my workshop teaches you.
That is awesome. That's such self-compassion in there. And in squad, I know we ran a little bit longer than what we usually do, but I want to keep my guy Dennis on here. He basically gave you a free masterclass on how a financial advisor should treat people, how to think about money. And he was full transparency from the hundreds of decisions that he had with building this house. You know, that he reminded us that this making decision from a place of fear is suboptimal, and that cognitive narrowing can happen. You know, we've seen, you know, Dennis told us that we do tend to internalize failure. And if you're going to hire a great financial advisor, he will help you get past the mental blocks using self-compassion. And when you're starting to work with an advisor, also ask them how they manage their own money and their thoughts and maybe their past, maybe reverse interview them, if you will. You know, life is a learning journey, Dennis reminded us. You know, you're going to go through new phases, new rebirths of life. And sometimes you're going to get stuck. And like my good friend and coach, Leah Woodford, told me, is like, get your asking gear. You can ask questions, but understand, like Dennis said, you're going to go through new phases. You know, Dennis can remembered, again, as the best person that he could be. You know, metaphorically, he's going to slide across home plate, bumped and bruised, but a better person, and knowing that he's helped people, you know, level up their life. You know, he wants you to, you know, find your purpose, that thing that moves you, that internal thing, you know, and if you do that, all your other whys, whats, hows will follow you because that passion and purpose is there. And all of his information is in our show notes, and please feel free to reach out to us so we can make a warm introduction to Dennis. You know, he levels up his health, he levels up his wealth. He's earned his varsity letter here at Time to Shine today. You know, he's just full of love. He's humble yet hungry, and he's full of compassion. Dennis, I love your guts, man. I really appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much.
I've had the most awesome time, Scott. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. We'll chat soon, my friend.
Okay, I look forward to it.